I'm sure you've heard of the winter arc. This is a trend that has been going around recently. I'm not sure if this is a new concept, but I think just because we're getting to that time of year, it's popping up more and more on our feeds and maybe even just mentally. This is one of the best times of year because we are almost wrapping up the year, but not quite. You know, there's still time to accomplish things and to get things done, as well as just how beautiful it is outside, and we start to get into the holidays. It's just cozy, it's fun, it's productive. This is the best time of year to lock in and focus on your goals, you know, wrapping up goals from 2024, but then also beginning to think of goals and your plans for 2025 while you still kind of have time to have fun with it and be free to brainstorm in a way where you feel less pressure, you know, than when it actually gets to be New Year's. I have really been reintroducing the law of attraction and manifestation into my everyday life and I guess spirituality practice. Let me know if you relate, but I feel like back in the day, like 2015, 2016, I was so into manifestation and I would read all the books and I would watch videos and it just kind of changed for me. I think being so invested in the community and consuming content about it. So I definitely stopped at least consuming a lot of the content, you know, over the past few years. And I think that was necessary for me just to kind of learn more about psychology and how to deal with difficult emotion. And I do think sometimes a lot of the law of attraction creators, sometimes it can dabble on toxic positivity. And I feel like at least in the past few years, it was just necessary for me to take a break. I recently have been getting into it again. And I feel like at this time of my life, it's a lot more valuable and I'm able to gain a lot more from these types of videos just because I do have more life experience and I'm able to look at, you know, what has worked? When have I felt the best in my life? When have I created the best work? When have I felt most in the flow state? And it's so true that your best work and therefore your best life circumstances come when you are in that calm, aligned, optimistic mindset. And a daily manifestation practice or mindfulness practice or grounding practice can help so much with that. There's two books I'm currently reading that I want to share with you guys. This book is called The Law of Attraction, The Power of Thought to Manifest Your Best Life. It's a really short, quick little book. This is by William Walker Atkinson. And then I'm also reading this book called Wherever You Go, There You Are, Mindfulness Meditation in Everyday Life. And this book is by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And this is really good as well. This book isn't specifically about the law of attraction, but more so in, again, mindfulness and meditation. And I think the two are very aligned. I was saying this in last week's episode, but you have to be very intentional with your time and how you're spending your energy. It's so easy to scroll mindlessly and to let negative energy, you know, from the world, from maybe people in your everyday life, just from people you might have to interact with out in public. You have to be very intentional when it comes to what you can control in the sense of your daily habits, how much you're scrolling, if you're just kind of, you know, subjecting yourself to brain rot a lot of the time, if you always have the news on in the background, if you're really caught up in celebrity drama or just like local Facebook drama. Because there's already a lot of that out in the world. And the more you can be intentional with protecting your own energy and kind of setting up the foundation of your mind to be that of peace and calm and mindfulness and just feeling good, then it's going to be that much easier to deal with that which you can't control, be it somebody else's mood. A stressful situation occurs that you can't really control, but you can control how you handle it and your approach and your own inner world. I have really been enjoying my morning walks. This morning, I was kind of just feeling overwhelmed mentally. There was a lot of things I wanted to get done, and I feel like the morning was just going by way too quickly. I knew I definitely wanted to take a walk, and I was like, is this walk going to be a waste of time? Should I just do it later? Should I just put it off today? And I was like, no, you know, I'm going to do it. It's still early enough, and it's not even going to take that long, so I'm just going to do it. And I'm so glad that I did that, because being out in nature and enjoying the fall morning air, and it was really nice and sunny, and just being with all the leaves changing and the birds chirping and looking at the little deli cats, I'm just so glad that I did that, because it made me change my perception of all the tasks that I had to get done, and I arrived back home in such a more clear, calm mindset because I was being present. It's so easy to get all torn up inside about all the things that we got to do, and if we have goals to accomplish, if we just have a long to-do list for dealing with different relationships in our life, whatever it is. I think so much of that is just dealing with our own mental clutter and thoughts and just feeling like scrambled and overwhelmed. So when you can intentionally make time in your day, even if it's a 10-minute little breathing exercise or meditation, to fully be present, and so much of mindfulness is observing without judgment. So instead of placing these thoughts or judgments on what it is, like, oh my god, like I just feel so stressed out, or this is too much to handle, or oh my god, I'm never going to be able to get all this done, or this is so annoying, this and that. You just kind of take a step back and observe and just get really present in your body, with breath work. And I think being outside is such a great way to just jumpstart this, because so much of nature is just already is, it's not rushing, it's not really being overwhelmed. And because we are organisms, we're going to feel better when we're around other organisms rather than just in a, man-made house with our electronics. It's necessary, grateful for shelter, but when we're able to be outside and just feel like some nice sunlight and look at the trees and listen to the birds, it really is going to make us feel better. So how does this go into the law of attraction? I've been watching a lot of videos specifically about quantum leaping, which is basically the idea that all different versions of yourself, which includes the version of yourself that you are after you accomplish the goals that you currently have, the version of yourself that's living your ideal life, your perfect life, whatever it may be, all of those versions already exist, and it's just up to you to align yourself with the frequencies that those versions of yourself that you want to be are at. It's basically like stepping into your ideal self. This also helps with mindfulness. You can kind of catch yourself, spiraling into a negative thought spiral, or if you're feeling really overwhelmed and stressed out and just maybe you're having a really negative mindset at the moment due to stressful circumstances, you can just take a pause, take a step back, and ask yourself, what would my ideal self do in this situation? How would she handle this situation? What can I do right now that is in my control and that can best align me to that peaceful state? Because I'm sure your ideal self is not running around stressed out all the time, and constantly in this frantic state of anxiety and never able to fully just relax in the moment. When we can do this, not only does it help to align us with our ideal self, but it just creates a better present moment and a better day to day in the current physical reality that we are already in, because it's not about, oh my god, I want, and this is such a huge aspect of the law of attraction, right? It's not, oh, I want this ideal life so much, I want this job, I want these circumstances, because then in the present moment you're stuck in that feeling of lack, and the feeling you're currently experiencing is wanting. It's not having or receiving, it's wanting, it's lack, it's kind of that urgency, anxiety, I don't have this feeling. So if you're able to be present, be mindful, be grounded in the moment, it's how can I feel good right now? Because my ideal self would choose to feel good right now. And in the book, Wherever You Go, There You Are, this section that has just really stood out to me is he says the phrase, this is it, in terms of a mindfulness or a meditation practice. How you can practice meditation and mindfulness throughout your day. It doesn't always have to be a sit down session, by just being this is it, and observing, the nature, observing your own breath, just observing the circumstances and just really being present. And this has just made me cultivate so much more gratitude in my day to day. And I think it's a lot more constructive way to practice gratitude, because, you know, if you want to sit down and make a gratitude list, that's great. If that helps you invoke that energy of being grateful and abundant and fulfilled and calm and happy, that's great. But is that just staying in that session where you're sitting down writing those things down for like 10 or 20 minutes? If you're able to bring it out into the world with you, into your life with you, and be like, this is it, and have gratitude for the present moment, even if it's stressful, it's like, this is it. And even just telling yourself that, I've found, kind of reduces some of the stress, because a lot of the stress and anxiety we go through is kind of future based. It's like, what if this happens? What if this gets worse? What should, like, you know, and obviously a certain amount of that helps keep us safe and is normal. But in things we can't control, or if you're prone to over anxiety, which I think a lot of people are in this day and age, it helps you stay present and grounded. But all of these things are aligned, right? And I think learning about these things hand in hand, at least for me, is helpful, because, you know, I love a good spiritual practice. Like, I definitely believe in vibes, you know, but it's nice to also have the scientific evidence to back it up. Because again, some content creators, they're just a little too, you know, mystical for me, and it's like, okay, like, are you just making this up? But when you're able to have a kind of grounded, reasonable approach to these vibe energy ideas, I think it just makes them easier to comprehend and like apply to your life. Because it's one thing to be watching a video in your safe little room, like magic vibes, and then you go out into the real world and it's like a slap in the face, because you're like, what happened to my magical vibes? But when you're able to put everything, like apply it to everything at once, then it's like, you know how to handle different situations. It doesn't just have to be this like magical thing that only makes sense when you're in your little bubble of like routine, or in your bedroom, and it's like there's no external factors. I want to be able to take this with me in stressful situations, in situations where people might have bad vibes, because that's also when you need it the most. Mindfulness is also very important when it does come to self-doubt and stress and negative thoughts. You're like, oh, this isn't working. I'm never going to get to where I want to be. Because you have to believe it and live it before it manifests externally. You can't wait for the external to change to then believe, because that's how people, like, sometimes you'll even be handed the perfect opportunity, and yet you can still lose it and kind of mess it up because you don't believe that you deserve it, or that it's actually real yet. So you got to get real intentional and believe it within yourself, so that you can be receptive to all the opportunities that life hands you, and even just the opportunities that you create for yourself. When you put yourself in that mindset of attracting opportunity, of optimism, of believing that you're lucky, of believing that you deserve what it is that you want, your brain is going to pick up on opportunities to where you can find it, to where you can create it, to where you can expand. If you're always looking at your life through this dismal lens of like, things don't work out for me, this is so hard, everyone else has it so much better than me, your reality is just going to keep reflecting that to you. So you really got to start from within and really work on believing, you know, what it is. And this is also where mindfulness can come into play, because you can recognize these thoughts that come up, maybe negative thoughts, and be like, that's just a thought. Like, I don't need to really do anything about that. I don't need to accept it. I don't need to believe it. I can just watch it, and then also watch how quickly it can go by when I don't attach myself to it. I was watching this creator's video, I'll link it down below, but it was about lucky girl syndrome, and she talked about this book called The Luck Factor in it, and it's, you know, this guy that basically is one of the only people that has studied luck. I put the book on hold. I really want to read it. But she referenced this study he did where he took, you know, some people that believed they were lucky and another group of people that believed they were unlucky, and he like put money on the ground and had each person like walk by. Like, obviously they didn't know what it was, but the people who believed they were lucky saw the money, and the people who believed they were unlucky would not like see the money on the ground. But isn't that crazy? Like, if you believe, like, if you believe it, your brain is going to see it. It's just like if you really want a certain car, you start seeing the car everywhere. It's like if you learn a new word, you start seeing that word everywhere, because it's literally your brain is just, and your subconscious is picking up like what it is that you're consciously thinking about. On that note, I also have been a lot more particular with the content that I consume. My goal this week, I've been rewatching The Sopranos. I love The Sopranos, don't get me wrong, amazing, but I have had kind of some stressful dreams, and it's kind of, I think, just adding a certain level of stress. Especially, like, I love to watch it before bed. I don't think that's the best, like, and I'm not saying, you know, you gotta completely cut yourself off from anything negative, and you gotta, like, sanitize your world, and, like, oh my god, we can't watch The Sopranos because of woke, you know, like, that's not what I'm saying. But I just kind of want to experiment, because I'm like, this month is my lock-in month, y'all. Like, I just really want to experiment with everything. Like, y'all know I'm doing Sober October, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I just really want to lock in and fully get my mindset to that next level. So I'm just trying everything. I'll let y'all know how it goes. I'm not saying forever you need to, like, you get what I'm saying. Like, I'm not, but if you're kind of in that process of, like, okay, let's get my mindset on track, it's like, let's just try different stuff. So I'm, this week, not going to watch The Sopranos. I'm going to either watch something more lighthearted or just, like, read my books. And then I'm also cutting way down on scrolling, because I feel like that also is, you know, and I talked about that last week, that can just really add negativity to your life and just contributes to brain rot, and, you know, and is a lot of the time a waste of time. So that also just comes down to mindfulness. You know, if I feel the urge to, like, scroll on my phone, pick up my phone, it's like, why? Like, do I feel like I need a reset? Am I bored? Like, what is the reason? It's just so true that your subconscious mind picks up on all of these things. You know, if you expose yourself to something, whether it's a video, a movie, brain rot, that's what you're going to be thinking about later. It might show up in your dreams. Like, it'll pop it into your head randomly. If something reminds you of it, that's what's going to come to mind, you know? So shifting all of that to positive things and things that will actually uplift you and align you. Another thing for me is I've been just watching a lot more content creators and just watching, you know, different people. And with that, it's basically aligning yourself with the life that you want. So if I think someone's videos are really good, or I just really like their personality and the way that they do their content, if I follow them and that's the kind of content I'm consuming, that's what's getting in my head, and that's what I'm aligning my own self with. Versus if you're watching people maybe that are just really miserable or, like, that are whining all the time, that's what you're aligning yourself with, you know? I think also doing things like this, you know, when you actively choose to, like, wake up earlier or not drink alcohol or go to the gym or not watch certain types of content, because you are intentionally setting these things up for your best interest and for your ideal self and to align yourself with the life that you want and your goals. It's like the universe recognizes that and will reward you for that. You know, if you are just whining all the time to the universe and, like, being unmotivated and telling yourself you're going to do things and not doing them, the universe is going to be like, bitch, get it together. Like, I can only do so much for you because I'm literally showing you these opportunities and you're not even seeing them. So you have to do your end of, like, showing up and putting in the work and doing what it is that you can do. Because I truly believe there's so much that the universe will give you, or, like, that God will give you if that's what you believe in. But you have to prove that you want it and that you're willing to put in the work and change your life so that you can change your life. You know? It's like I always say, your life has to change before your life change. Like, it's not like you're going to be a successful businesswoman externally first and then, oh, well, then I'm going to work on it internally. Or, like, I want to be a gym girly, so I'm going to wait until I'm just magically a gym girly one day and then I'll decide to start going to the gym. It's like, no, you got to put in the hard, uncomfortable work and go through those changes of your life shifting before you can recognize yourself. And also a good tip and just something to keep in mind when it comes to the law of attraction and everything is that once you get something, it normally feels normal. Like a lot of things, because maybe there'll be a process to get to a certain level, like especially in fitness and stuff, it's not like something just happens overnight. Sometimes, in business you can, your sales will blow up overnight, or you'll get a really good offer letter suddenly, and that's like an overnight change. But typically you gotta put in a certain amount of work that's gradual to get to where you want to be. So by the time you're actually where you want it to be, you're already thinking about the next thing, or you're just like, it feels normal. It's like expected. And so that's something important to keep in mind now when you are still in the process of setting those goals and starting out. Because if you expect it to feel super exciting and like, oh my God, like this is great, like fireworks, it's kind of like in a relationship, it's like, that's not really what you should be looking for. Like you want it to feel normal. Like if you want to be making a certain amount of money each month, it's going to feel normal to you. Unless it's like a one-time thing, but you don't want it to be a one-time thing. You want it to be like normal. So you got to act like it's normal. Like, of course, duh, I make that much. Like, what's the moves? I'm sure there's something in your life, even if it's very small, that you have now that maybe you didn't have when you were younger, or a few years ago, or maybe even a year ago, Even if it's something like a lip gloss that you wanted. It's like once you get the lip gloss, maybe it's cool for a day, but then it's like, yeah, it's just normal. It's part of my collection. Like, should I wear this one today? I don't know. So, of course, it's important to practice gratitude, but when something is your life and your lifestyle, you do get used to it to a certain extent. So that's also an important energy to keep in mind when thinking about your goals. This creator I watch, her name is Jills. I'll link her channel below. Her videos are so good. She just seems so sweet and genuine. But she often talks about the ladder of achievable goals that you can mentally wrap your head around. Because if you want to be a millionaire, that might seem to you right now like just very unachievable and kind of just like a fantasy, But it is possible. So in a ladder, it's like maybe you just up what you're making. Like if you're a content creator, just up what you're making now by like $1,000. And that's the first step of the ladder. And then once you achieve that, it's like, okay, the next step would be this much more, and then this much more. And like, if you keep working, the sky's the limit. So being realistic. And then she also made this video about an upward spiral. And I think this might have also been when she talked about luck, but how when you have small wins, it makes your subconscious just believe that you're winning. So it trains your brain to, again, pick up on opportunities where you can win and opportunities that are going to be positive for you and build your business. Versus if you keep losing and like maybe setting these really unrealistic goals for you to just like randomly achieve, and you fail, you're just like, well, I guess I'm a failure. I'm not meant to do this. She talked about this study that was done on mice, and they made mice like fight, and they purposely like drugged one of the mice so that it would lose. The one mouse that won, who like won because it was obviously like an uneven fight, an unequal fight, kept winning even after like the other mouse was not drugged. And the mouse that was originally drugged, even after it was drugged, it kept losing. Create an upward spiral for yourself by setting small, easily achievable goals so that you just get in the habit of winning and achieving things, and like it will build your confidence to then work on things that are bigger. So as for the winter arc, I'm doing a whole YouTube video about this. Obviously, this is like a podcast about it, but in the video, I'm going to do some tips and tricks. What I would say though, overall, is to set your goals and to just look at your life and your day-to-day and just kind of feel out where there's maybe a lack of balance, or just where you kind of need to smooth out or like tweak so that your results can be more optimal. For example, if you're like, I really want to start waking up earlier, you could start by looking at your daily habits and being like, okay, like I do tend to scroll a lot at night, so maybe I'm just going to try reading before bed, or like at least watching a show or like long form content before bed instead of just scrolling on TikTok. I have just been trying things for like a week at a time. So like this week, I'm going to try to not watch this. I am doing sober October though, so that was like one of my big goals for the month. But yeah, once you set a small short-term goal, like it could literally be, okay, this week, not even for the full month, But this week, I'm going to read before bed instead of scrolling on my phone. Maybe it'll be like, okay, kind of more difficult than you thought. Maybe it will be easier than you thought, but just kind of setting yourself to something, especially now. Well, again, we still have time before New Year's. It will get you in the habit of setting a goal, working at it, achieving it. And something else I did is I made a list of goals that I want to accomplish before New Year's, and they're all very action-based. I feel like a lot of the times when I would make goals before, it would be like, get to this amount of subscribers, like something like that. It's kind of out of my control to an extent, you know, and it is kind of limiting. So I made these goals, at least specifically the goals for the new year, when we have this limited amount of time, that are things I can like do, you know? So for example, it would be something like, I really want to get this ebook out. And that's something I can do. I have a new merch design coming out. So like that's one of the goals, like get that out, and I want to do this little photo shoot for it. And all of the goals that I set are going to help me, I guess, make goals for 2025 when the time comes. There are things that are buildable and that also just kind of create the ambiance, you know, that you want when it comes to like building goals. Like, okay, I'm going to start with this small goal and then from that build onto a bigger one, etc. Like, for example, instead of being like, I want to lose this much amount of weight before 2025, you could just be like, I want to work out this many times per week. Instead of having the end result being your goal, the habit is your goal, so that you're going to start 2025 with the habits and the mindset, you know? And I feel like this is sometimes healthier. Obviously, sometimes we need like a concrete goal of, I want to lose this much weight, or like, I want to get my views up by this much percentage. For me, at least, doing it this way before New Year's just makes a lot of sense in building that foundation of confidence and of success and like the luck mindset of like, I can achieve this, because the goals are more so habits and again buildable things than like the end all be all result. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, you don't want to set a goal right before New Year's and like fail. You're gonna have a bad attitude setting your goals for 2025. Like, I can't even achieve anything, why try, you know? So set yourself up for success by setting yourself up for success. So let me know your thoughts on any of that. Believing in yourself is just key, because nothing in this life is permanent, you know? And actually this book, The Law of Attraction, said something that really stood out to me. I don't think I even marked the quote. Nothing in life is inevitable except death and taxes, LOL. And often when we're stressing about something, whether it's a goal or just something in our lives, we always think of all the potential things that could go wrong. But the thing about life is there are always so many good things that could happen too. And like, you just never know when life is going to give you some opportunities. And like, that is sprinkled in there, I would say even more so than bad things. Because usually when there's stresses, like, most of the stress just comes from our mind of stressing about it or having anxiety about it. So it's like, babes, if you align yourself with the frequency of luck, optimism, things are working out for me, you're going to see all the good things that are in store for you. And this is also a really important mindset to get into, because it's just like, first of all, it's proven scientifically. And then also it's like, what a better use of energy, especially for us anxious prone girlies, you know, like we need to chill out. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you have any creators that you love who talk about this kind of stuff, or books or podcasts. I'll link some of my favorites down below. Week 2 of Sober October completed. It's just easy. I don't know, but I will say something about this past week specifically is it was my luteal phase. So like the week before my period. And I always just kind of anticipate to be like tired, off, like my lifts aren't going to be as good in the gym, like I might be more annoyed, whatever. My positivity and optimism was at an all-time high. I had so much more energy and nothing really changed except that I didn't go out that weekend. This is literally just because I didn't go out this past weekend, and it's like building up, because drinking alcohol really affects your serotonin levels. And that's why people get depressed after they drink and get like anxiety. Yeah, I'm just so glad that I did this, because it's been easy and I just feel so much more locked in, and like my weekends are truly about relaxation. But yeah, I'm just like well rested, getting steps, way better in the gym. This is making me not want to drink ever again, babes. Like, I wanted to answer, of course, some questions. Somebody asks how to find your look. Align your look with what you want to work towards. So I really upgraded my look, I would say, and just started dressing more classy and feminine. And I would say timeless for the most part, because I started watching Shira 7 heavily like last year. And what she said about, you know, how your look will attract different guys just really stood out to me. And dressing feminine and just like how you present yourself in the world really affects how people treat you. So I just started really, you know, I feel like before I was more trendy. I was like, I knew the camera was gonna die. Hashtag free me. But anyway, I just had such a better experience every time that I go out, you know, just in public. I noticed when I dyed my hair darker, I started getting way more compliments like on my eyes, and I just felt like things looked better on me. So I would say, first of all, know what your goal is. Once you define your goal, it's like finding what specifically you like and what looks good on you within that niche, or like within that goal, within that style, you know? And it's like, sometimes I'll go for more of a streetwear vibe. Sometimes, you know, if I'm gonna go do laundry, I'm like wearing sweatpants. It's not that deep. But if I'm going out into the world, I definitely like to look very put together, nice, classy, and feminine. So, period. And that just aligns with my goals of being chic. And also, I love Pinterest for different outfits. And something I like to do is, if you have something like, let's say I have a black silk maxi skirt. So if you just type in outfits for black silk maxi skirt on Pinterest, you'll get so many ideas. So you don't even always have to go buy a whole new wardrobe. You know, it's just about tailoring what you do have to fit like the aesthetic that you're going for, and like finding different ways to style it. So love Pinterest. Feminine and masculine energies. I actually was just listening to a podcast this morning. It was really good, actually. It was about building wealth, but kind of from a spiritual perspective. I'll link it down below. But they were talking about feminine and masculine energies within that, and how you need both in order to create, you know, a healthy business and just in life, you know. And they were talking about how some people can be too masculine and like rigid, logical in their work or like in their brand or whatever. And then some people can be overly feminine in the sense of like very with the flow, spiritual. So they gave this analogy that was like, imagine a river, and the masculine energy is like the river banks that give the river structure and a direction. And then the feminine energy is the water flowing, you know, within those river banks. And I thought that made a lot of sense. Our world really prioritizes masculine energy because of patriarchy, and feminine energy isn't always valued, or, you know, we're not even really taught how to tap into it. So that's why there's this, you know, huge movement of feminine energy and how to get into your feminine energy and access it and be more aligned with it, because there is so much power in it. And just because maybe it's, you know, more soft than masculine energy doesn't mean it's any less powerful. It is just about finding the balance, but sometimes that balance is really focusing on feminine energy, because maybe your whole life you've kind of been taught to be in your masculine energy and like be tough and independent and like very rigid. So in order to balance that out, you gotta really focus on, you know, the content that you consume to be more feminine. Mindset for weight loss. I would use quantum leaping, TBH, and force yourself method, and look at your daily habits. Just make sure that everything is aligned with your goal. Be realistic. I think, you know, a lot of people want to lose weight quick and fast, and that's not always sustainable. You know, that's why a lot of people will do fad diets and then quickly gain that weight back afterwards. So it's about creating long-term sustainable habits that ultimately make you feel so good that it's, once you adjust, because, you know, an adjustment and change can always be difficult and like feel just not smooth. But once you make that adjustment and get used to it, it's a lifestyle, you know, that you feel so good doing and that you want to continue. The reason I lost weight when I came to New York is just because I started walking so much more, and now that's just part of my life. Like, I don't even really have to think about it, and it genuinely makes me feel so good. I would really focus on getting steps, like at least 10K a day, and eating whole foods, which is basically just minimally processed and high protein, and especially your beverages. Make sure, you know, you're just drinking water, cut back, you know, even things like the girlies love a matcha, but sometimes y'all's matchas be as many calories and sugar as the caramel frappuccino. Again, be mindful of your daily habits and create new habits that are going to be sustainable and not only be for weight loss, but just for your health, your mindset, and for a balanced lifestyle. Okay, last question is your philosophy on working out and fitness, the logic behind it. Ooh, I just like to feel good. I like lifting weights. I like it in the moment. I like the progress. I know it's good for me long term. I like the structure of it. I'm someone who I do like working out by myself. You know, maybe I'll take a class from time to time. I honestly haven't taken a class since like pre-COVID. But it's just very easy for me to be accountable. If you're more of a class girly, then do that, you know? Ultimately, it's really important to be accountable when it comes to working out and fitness, because you don't want to have long-term health problems, especially as a woman. You know, we lose collagen, we lose bone density as we get older, and working out, especially lifting weights, is really key in preventing that and just staying healthy and agile. You know, you don't want to have mobility issues. You want to prevent that as long as you can. And you want to look good. You want to feel good and look good. So get your steps, lift your heavy weights, eat your protein, drink your water, get your fiber, you know? So that is going to be all I talk about today. I hope this podcast, this episode invigorated you. I have some upcoming guests, y'all. So stay tuned for that. I'm so excited. Let me know who I should reach out to, who would be a great guest for the Stella podcast, and stay tuned for some upcoming merch and other digital products that I am so excited for. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next week.